Thank you, Chuck. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of where the effort stands in 2012 to protect the nation from a nuclear natural electromagnetic pulse catastrophe. You know, we're meeting here today on December 7th, 2012, when the solar maximum has commenced. Every 11 years, the thermonuclear cauldron that is the sun enters a phase of heightened activity, hurling into space coronal mass ejections and solar flares that could cause a geomagnetic superstorm on Earth with catastrophic consequences for the inhabitants of our planet. Most scientists estimate that a superstorm like the 1859 Carrington event occurs about once every century. If so, we are now 53 years overdue for another Carrington that would collapse electric grids and the critical infrastructures that sustain modern civilization and the lives of billions worldwide. Our luck may hold through the solar maximum, which shall last a year through 2013. No Carrington event or lesser natural EMP catastrophe may visit us just yet. But our survival will be due to luck, not to prudence or wise policy. We are living on borrowed time. Reports are surfacing from sources inside the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that there are 2 more previously unknown underground facilities working on nuclear weapons in Iran, that the program is more advanced than previously estimated, and that Iran is now in the process of actually building nuclear warheads. If these reports are even partially true, Iran may be within months of executing a nuclear EMP attack against the United States. When I left the CIA to work as professional staff on the House Armed Services Committee in 1995, one of my first jobs was to help Congressman Roscoe Bartlett educate policymakers and the public on the EMP threat and on the necessity of protecting our nation. To me, the threat was so clear, the consequences so grave, and the necessity of action so urgent that I thought we could pass a bill in a year to protect the nation from EMP and then move on to other national security issues. 13 years later, at the end of 2008, when the EMP Commission delivered its final report and recommendations to the Congress, I thought there was still time to protect the nation. The solar maximum was still 4 years distant. Iran had not yet developed nuclear weapons. Surely I thought the Congress will now enact legislation to protect the critical infrastructures from EMP. After all, historically, Congress has promptly implemented the recommendations of other congressional commissions, or so I told myself in 2008. Today in 2012, 4 years after the EMP Commission presented its plan to Congress, 17 years since embarking on their crusade to make America safe from EMP, we are still naked. I have grown old witnessing Washington's ignorance and inertia conspire to make the people vulnerable to the greatest threat to our civilization, yet a threat that is easiest and least costly of solution. As of December 2012, the national electric grid and other critical infrastructures are still unprotected from EMP. Not a single recommendation of the Congressional EMP Commission to physically harden the critical infrastructures has been implemented. Yet there is still hope. There may be time to act decisively to protect the critical infrastructures before nature or man hurls the EMP hammer. Given good planning, adequate resources, and the will to move quickly, much could be accomplished even in 1 year. For example, the 300 most important EHV transformers servicing our most populous cities and the nuclear power reactors might be protected on an accelerated basis. And the year 2012 has seen some amazing progress toward national EMP preparedness, even if it is as yet only paper progress. President Obama's Presidential Decision Directive 8 has, for the first time, led to the recognition in the Strategic National Risk Assessment, developed by the direction of the White House, of natural EMP from a geomagnetic superstorm as one of the greatest threats for which the nation must prepare. If President Obama invested some of his political leadership in the cause of EMP preparedness, if he gave EMP protection the kind of financial and regulatory support that he accords to climate change, the White House could get the job done and perhaps single-handedly save the nation. President Obama's re-election could well be fortuitous for the cause of EMP preparedness. The President already knows about the EMP threat, so he will not have to learn on the job. President Obama's inherent skepticism about the claims of industry and his greater trust in government expertise would serve well the cause of EMP preparedness in our struggle with industry lobbyists and the NERC. President Obama reportedly will try another round of government spending to stimulate the economy and has repeatedly promised investment in infrastructure projects. Any money spent on protecting critical infrastructures from EMP would be money well spent. As a second-term president, Obama can and probably will act boldly and to the very limits of his authority to achieve his objectives. Such a president is needed to rescue the American people from the looming EMP catastrophe. Congress in 2012 launched numerous initiatives designed to greatly advance civil-military preparedness for EMP. At minimum, these raise consciousness and greater conscientiousness in the departments and agencies of the U.S. government. The Department of Defense in 2012 continued to harden military systems against EMP. Although these hardening programs are intended for warfighting purposes, they inherently make the DoD better able to help the Department of Homeland Security recover the critical infrastructures and rescue the American people in the aftermath of an EMP event. During Hurricane Sandy, the Defense Department cooperated and made available DoD resources to prepare and recover from the hurricane to an unprecedented degree. Hopefully, this is a new trend that will lead to the much greater and more ambitious cooperation needed between DoD and DHS to achieve the necessary civil-military preparedness for an EMP catastrophe. The Department of Homeland Security in 2012, for the first time in a congressional hearing, acknowledged its responsibility to protect the critical infrastructures from a natural or nuclear EMP event. As 2012 draws to a close, DHS is finally working on and may adopt a new national planning scenario focused on EMP, one of the chief recommendations of the Congressional EMP Commission. All emergency preparedness, planning, training, and resource allocation at the federal, state, and local levels is based on the national planning scenarios. The inclusion of a national planning scenario for EMP would be an enormous step forward. In November 2012, the U.S. Federal Energy Regulatory Commission directed the electric power industry to develop a plan to protect the national electric grid from natural EMP, including by hardening the grid. Technical hardening of the grid from natural EMP would also provide some, though incomplete, protection against nuclear EMP. Now, in 2012, despite amazing progress toward EMP preparedness in the policy realm, there were also severe defeats and setbacks. The SHIELD Act, the single most important congressional initiative for EMP preparedness that would mandate protection of the national electric grid instead of relying on the voluntary cooperation of industry, failed to pass. Industry lobbyists managed to keep SHIELD bottled up in the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Congressman Trent Franks will reintroduce the SHIELD Act and fight for its passage in the next Congress. But now, SHIELD cannot pass in time to be of any use protecting the grid during the solar maximum, and perhaps not before Iran gets the bomb and the capability to make a nuclear EMP attack. Worse still, the champions of EMP preparedness in the Senate are retiring and will not return in 2013. Senators John Kyle, Joe Lieberman, and Jim Webb will be gone in 2013 with no one to take their place on the firing line, at least not yet. The bad economy is crippling the EMP movement at the grassroots level. People who fear for their jobs and the immediate welfare of their families must be less generous donating their time and resources for political activism. Even my own task force on national and homeland security, which has operated on a voluntary basis with very little financial resources through 2012, may perish in 2013. Worse still, Congressman Roscoe Bartlett, who started the EMP movement and has long been the national leader on EMP preparedness, lost his seat in the 2012 elections. Maryland Democrats gerrymandered Bartlett's seat, making his re-election impossible. Even though the EMP movement is on the brink of victory in the crucial campaign for sound government policies, our losses in people may well cost us the war. The EMP crusaders have never been numerous or well-funded. EMP preparedness has been a David versus Goliath struggle, pitting a handful of political leaders, scientists, and grassroots activists having virtually no resources against the twin Goliaths of government bureaucracy and industry having virtually unlimited monies and armies of lobbyists. In 2013, we EMP crusaders may come to our Alamo. I will hope instead for our Thermopylae, or better yet, a Salamis. And I hope fervently, fighting against fear and resignation, that our struggle for national preparedness is not terminated by the sun or a nuclear adversary delivering upon us an EMP apocalypse. Now, Dr. William Graham, who had been the chairman of the EMP Commission, had on his wall a plaque, a statement, a saying from Winston Churchill that I have tried to live by. Never, 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 never give up. And the man we are about to introduce is the very embodiment of those virtues. But I think the best way of introducing him is by reading a tribute that was authored by Dr. Graham and by Ambassador James Woolsey, former director of the CIA, honoring Dr. Bartlett, Congressman Bartlett. Congressman Roscoe G. Bartlett, in recognition of heroic leadership, laboring virtually alone for years, Congressman Roscoe Bartlett warned and educated presidents and the American people about the catastrophic threat from electromagnetic pulse, held the first unclassified hearings on EMP, established the EMP Commission, and inspired a national movement for EMP preparedness to safeguard American civilization and the lives of millions. And I would add one other tribute, and that is, you know, none of us would be in this room today were it not for Congressman Roscoe Bartlett. You know, when he began the EMP crusade back in 1995, it was all deeply classified. You know, this man alone, armed with me, not much, you know, but armed virtually alone, is the one who started everything we have today, and all of the progress that has been achieved we owe to Congressman Bartlett. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Roscoe G. Bartlett.